Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Profit Minds podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Stephen Kirch, creator of the Profit Minds Growth System, a unique blend of profit growth, productivity acceleration, and building robust business process for scale. In every episode, I interview entrepreneurs and small business owners from around the world with a unique story to tell. You can find the show on YouTube, LinkedIn, Apple and Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and more. Welcome, Joe.
Hi, Stephen. It is great to be here. Good to see you.
Good to see you. So tell me, what is it that you say create a unique signature program? What does that look like?
Right. So a unique signature program is based on what I like to call your KEEs, KEES. That's how I spell keys.
Oh,
Knowledge, experience, and expertise. See, we've all been through things in life and the challenges. Sometimes things don't go so well, but we figure it out, right? That's
yep.
your experience, and you gain knowledge and expertise through that. With 7 billion people in the world, there's a very good chance there are people going through the same challenges that you've already gone through. So you can use that experience to be a signature program, if you will. And it might be based on personal experience. It might be based on how you've helped your clients get from point A to point B.
Ah, okay. So, this, the knowledge, and I'm all about learning, right? That's one of my things, right? You don't get a PhD without spending a lot of time learning. And so knowledge, experience, expertise, that really resonates with me. So how did you get here? Tell me a little of your story. I love to hear the stories of how people get to where they are. And I understand you climbed a mountain.
Yeah, well, yeah. So so I could do this very quickly. I could write a whole book on this, right? Just like I'm sure most people could on their experience when they get to my age, right? I graduated college and I got a job doing exactly what I wanted to do, where I wanted to do it. I was happy. It was perfect. 5 months into that, a fellow came to me and said, "Joe, what do you think about going to Italy?" So I'd like to travel. He says, "I lost my eyes on the ground. I've got business interest in Italy. I need someone to look after my interest there. 2 years, you can go." And I was like, "Hey, that sounds great. If I don't go now, when will I ever get the chance to go again?" I was just out of college. I didn't have a girlfriend at the time. I didn't have anything really holding me back. So that looked like a cool adventure.
Yeah. Wow. That sounds like fun.
Yeah, it was. And so I took it, right? 2 years. I was overseas for 18 years. In Italy, I kind of figured out what I was doing and the language. I became the sales lead in Italy. Traveled around Italy teaching folks about vitamins, how to use them, how to sell them, what they do for you, things like that. When the company wanted to go to South America, they asked me if I would go to Brazil and head up the operations in South America. And I said, "Well, what do you want me to do there? What would be my role?" And they basically said, "Joe, you've seen what we've done in Italy. We want you to duplicate that in Brazil." That was my job description.
Okay.
So I was 5 years in Italy. When I went to Brazil, I married an Italian, and we got married in Italy. And a couple of days later, we found ourselves in Brazil, learning the language, doing everything. So anyway, I was there for 9 years. Beautiful, beautiful country, wonderful people. I got involved with racing sailboats and traveled the country, teaching people, doing seminars, started a few other businesses. I got on stage a lot. That was a lot of fun. And then I was kind of done with it. And I went back to Italy and I started a language school. Also started a bicycle tourism business. We took folks up to the mountains on mountain bikes. and had a consulting agency. We were moving products from Italy into Austria. So that was 4 years. And then I moved back to the US and ran a restaurant, ran a mortgage industry, and I started coaching folks on how to have success in business.
Cool. Now, I heard tell that you climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. What does that have to do with business?
So I kind of relate everything to business. It's just the way my mind works. And the story starts like this. I was sitting at a bar where all great stories begin.
All great ideas, right? Formulated.
I was sitting there with my father and a couple beers in, and my dad says, "Hey, Joe, if I climb Kilimanjaro, will you climb with me?" I'm like, "Sure, why not? What the heck?" That was the inspiration. So all good businesses, all great businesses start with an inspiration and a question. Can we do this? What if we do this? What if it goes terribly wrong? What if we can't do it? Who's done it before? Where can we find inspiration? Who can help us? And then we get into, what do we need to learn to be successful in this venture? And we started training. We had a group of people, and every Sunday we would post on our private Facebook group pictures of where we were hiking. That was our training. That was our accountability. You did not want to arrive Sunday evening and not have a picture to post. So all of that, I relate to business. You've got the inspiration. You've got knowledge that you've got to learn. There are resources out there that you can tap into, and then you've got to do it. You've just got to get out there and do it. Then we found a company, because the question was, who can help us get up this mountain? And we found an outfitting company. So there were 8 climbers, and we had a team of 46 people to help us get up the mountain.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a tall mountain.
Yes.
19,341 feet.
Yeah. It's on my list.
Yeah. It's a wonderful experience, Stephen. I would recommend it. Definitely. So,
the other thing I heard you talk about was the accountability, and having somebody, like in business, a business coach hold you accountable, or your partners, or somebody that you're working with. So maybe somebody on your team, but there needs to be some kind of an accountability partner there, or to make sure you stay on track.
And that was very important, because we're not mountain climbers. My dad and I and other family members who went, we're really not mountain climbers. So we needed the accountability. We needed to get out there and train and learn what we needed to know, from the boots that we had to wear to the headgear to keep us cool. You don't want to bring your whole house up the mountain, right? It's not like packing. It's not like packing your SUV when you're going to a drive-in campsite. You've got a very limited amount of space and weight that you can actually bring up the mountain. So there's equipment that you need, just like when you're starting your business and running your business. You need the tools. You need the right tools.
Yeah. No, it's great parallels. I really like that story. So what is it that makes your business unique?
Well, one of the things that makes my business unique, Stephen, is that I have been in business for years. I've had anything from running a restaurant to creating business in Brazil and Argentina and Chile. While I was there, we expanded to other markets. I ran a sales team, and I started from zero lots of times. It's kind of something you don't want to be good at, which is starting over. Something that I've done in different countries and different industries numerous times. And I found that experience allows me to think outside the box. I feel like I've lived outside the box, but it's that experience in having businesses and helping folks have businesses and grow their business that sets me apart.
Yeah. Interesting. And who's your ideal client, and what's the problem that you solve?
So my ideal client is someone who has a knowledge, experience, and expertise, but they haven't been able to monetize it. They've got it. They know they've got it. They know they can help people. Maybe they even have helped a few people, but their business isn't growing the way they'd like it to grow. So that would be an ideal client, as would be an executive who's been in corporate life for 20 or 30 years, and they've got a lot of knowledge, experience, and expertise, but have never had to sell that, have never had to market that, and maybe even wondering if it has any value in the marketplace. So they're looking to get out of corporate and start their own business. I would help them set up a signature program based on knowledge, experience, and expertise that they can bring to the market.
Yeah, to start from scratch.
Yeah,
like you have done a number of times.
Right. In that case, that would probably be starting from scratch. Well, there are ways to I'm a big fan of dipping your toes in the water.
Mm-hmm.
And we do a lot of test marketing.
Sure.
Trying to limit the risk of starting, because starting a business is risky. We can limit those risks. That's just fantastic.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So how do you use your unique properties as a businessman, your experience, to market your business? That's one of the things I work with my clients on, is to help them, really codify what it is that that makes them unique, and then what problem do they solve, and how do they reach out to those clients? So what do you do in your marketing that leverages those kinds of ideas?
Yeah, that's a great question. I base my marketing based on the problems that I solve.
Mm-hmm,
and
sure.
I found that I have to talk about the problems. I have to talk about the challenges people are going through right now. But sometimes that's not enough. Sometimes you have to talk about the symptoms, because a lot of my ideal clients, they're not aware of the actual problem. They've got symptoms. So so they might be thinking about, what social media should I be marketing on? Well, that may not be the real question that they need to answer. Perhaps it's the messaging that needs to be answered.
Yeah.
Perhaps the real question is, where do your ideal clients hang out online? That's the real question.
Right.
And then we can answer that question. So, one of the things that I do, because I've lived in the different countries, and I think it comes from having an open mind. I'm very curious, and I will ask questions, lots of questions. And I think it takes questions to get to the real source of the problem. I see a lot of people work with symptoms. Symptoms are okay. And, I even did a post on, is it okay to solve symptoms, or should you be solving problems? Well, sometimes you need to solve the symptoms, because it's burning and it hurts, and you've got to solve that symptom. But when you can solve the cause, then you've gotten to the root of the problem, and you don't have those symptoms anymore. If you're just solving for symptoms, they will reoccur, and they'll come back again.
Yeah, but you're absolutely right. Sometimes the symptom can be so overwhelming that the patient, if you will, business owner in this case, can't even stop to think about what might be at the root. We just got to get rid of the symptom.
Yeah.
And maybe that's put a Band-Aid on it, or maybe it's just anesthesia, right? To numb the area so that you can treat the larger problem.
Yes. And what you remember years ago, we used to talk about putting out fires.
Mm-hmm.
I can't organize my life. I'm too busy putting out fires.
Yeah. Then again, of course, the question becomes, well, what do you learn from putting out that fire? What did you learn about the cause of that fire? That's one of the things that I really like working with my clients on, is, when you get through the crisis or the emergency, so right, what is it that you learned from that?
Right.
It's very important to do a bit of a retrospective, or a review, if you will, of that so you can try to figure out, well, how do I prevent that from happening in the future?
Yes. So I tell you a quick story. I had a kitchen manager one time, and we need a report on inventory every week. And there were other items in the report. Inventory was principal. So every week we'd come to Monday afternoon, and he's rushing around and he's like, oh, I got to work extra today. I have to do this report and it's such a problem and I got to take care of this and I got to do, oh man. I was like, look, man, this is this. So I coined the phrase, if I can remember this well, it's regularly scheduled, reoccurring events should not constitute an emergency and crises every time.
Oh, I can hear it.
You know it's coming. You know it's Monday. Get your act. I didn't use the word act. Get your act together.
Oh yeah, I can hear that. I've had people that have worked for me in the past, employees and the like, have a similar sort of, oh gosh, I got to stop everything I'm doing for this regular recurring activity. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. So, I mean, one of the things we did at Intel for a while when I was first there, we wrote weekly reports, and they were due on a certain day so that your manager could write them, 4 hours later or whatever. And then his manager or her manager could write and it would roll all the way up to the CEO. So that everybody summarized the weeklies of everybody that worked for them. But there were an awful lot of people who complained about, having to spend the time to.
Right. Because there are probably so many other fires going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we like to eliminate fires.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's really good. And again, the best firefighters, this is something that I learned, as a certified facilitator of the 7 habits, right? That one of the things that Dr. Covey talked about was his time management matrix, and quadrant 1 are those emergencies, right? Those and quadrant 2 are the things that are important but not urgent,
right?
And those are the places that you really want to focus.
Yeah, that's my favorite quadrant right there.
And it turns out that the best fire departments in the U.S. spend about 95% of their time in quadrant 2.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Very, very little time in putting out fires, which is what you think of when you think of a firefighter. Well, actually, they spend an awful lot of time doing building inspections, making sure that fire alarms are in place. They train. They'll burn down a building and train on how to put out the fire best and all those kinds of things. But they spend an awful lot of time in that important but not urgent quadrant, that quadrant 2 stuff, so that they can reduce the amount of time that they have to spend in quadrant 1. Same thing is true for a business owner.
Yes.
Right? If you find yourself in quadrant 1, figure out what you could do today, tomorrow, after you get through that crisis to not put yourself there anymore.
Right. That should be management 101, business ownership 101.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, I'm sure you're well aware of this, right? That so many small business owners, they get into business not because they're good at business. They get into business because they're good at what they do. They're passionate about what they do, passionate about how they can help. And I'm sure that's true for all your clients as well.
Yes. They're very good technicians, as
right.
We might hear. Yeah.
Right. And from the E-Myth.
The E-Myth, right. They're very good technicians. They need to move into management roles and think about the business. So yeah, I do help with that. Yeah. Yeah. And I love the entrepreneurial spirit. The guy's a plumber and he's working for someone and he's tired of working for the person and he just wants to be on his own. And so he branches out on his own and takes that risk. I love that energy and that spirit.
But then they need help.
Then they need right.
So tell me, what has you excited about the future for you and your business?
So I am real excited about online hybrid courses. Now, online courses, they're all over the place. They're out there, right? You can download stuff. You can go through the different lessons and modules. What a hybrid course is it has all of those assets, but there's also individual and group attention. So it's different from having a one-on-one client. It's having groups of folks going through the same process with online material, with course material online, but also with the personal attention of a coach.
Okay.
And so I put one together recently because I found a need. And isn't that how business works? You find a need and you fix a problem.
Right.
And it's about being a guest on podcast and optimizing the opportunity when you have the chance to be a guest on a podcast. And so I call it podcast guesting success.
Cool. And where can people find out about this?
So they can find out about this at the link gapologist.com.
Okay. We'll make sure that's in the show notes.
Yeah, thank you. Gapologist.com is a portal to other links. So I've got my free courses there. I've got my podcast information there, my website information, LinkedIn, everything about me basically and my business can be found at gapologist.com.
Great. And do you have some resources, events, gifts you can share with our audience today?
Yeah. So along with that course, I have other courses and material available. I've got a number of guides that are available at gapologist.com. So if you go there, you'll see what's available and find something that looks interesting. And they're free downloads.
Great.
Yeah. The one I'm really excited about is the podcast guesting success, because I've put so much time into that. That's where a lot of my energy has gone in the last 2 weeks.
Wonderful. Yeah. I'm sure our listeners will be happy to check that out. So, I often give my guests an opportunity to do a shout out for somebody else that might be an interesting guest on the show. Do you have somebody that you would like to recommend?
Yeah, so I would like to recommend a friend and colleague. I've been on his show. He does wonderful work, and he's also has a great podcast. And his name is Matt Levenhagen. It's like Copenhagen, but Levenhagen. Matt Levenhagen. Yes, and he's got a show called The Builders.
The Builders. Okay, we'll check it out, and maybe I'll get Matt here on this show. That'd be wonderful.
Yeah, he'd be a great guest, Stephen. He'd love to be on your show, I'm sure.
All right, and that concludes our show. Thanks to Joe. You've been listening to the Profit Minds podcast. This is your host, Dr. Stephen Kirch. Please visit www.profitminds.net for other episodes or to contact me. Thank you for your positive feedback, comments, questions, and for sharing this show with others. Thanks for listening. Have a grateful day.